JD, are you as scared as some Chief fans are of the whole Trey Smith situation playing into training camp? I mean,
No,
he hasn't been in any OTAs yet, and that's just one thing that's obviously lingering, just because the contract situation is what it is, right? You have the tag, but are you scared that he's not gonna? Or not scared, but do you fear this is gonna kind of drag out till we get to training camp? Until he gets a long-term deal?
no, not really. I don't. At this point, you're kind of like, look, um, we got to play with the guys that we got here right now, see what guys can do. And if this is something that does drag out for a long time, or somebody demanding to have a long-term deal, at that point, other people are getting reps at that position as well. So I'm not really worried about it. This is something. It's just contract talks. Is what this thing is. How it happens, right? And so, it'll all work itself out. It'll all work itself out. And so, okay, because I said the versatility on the offensive line with guys, that puts the Chief in a pretty decent position. To be honest with you, okay. We know that Wanye Morris has played over there to the right side. Could he play guard? Sure. Are there other guys in here that could possibly play guard? Yeah, possibly. But Trey wants to get paid. I get it. He hasn't been there, but they're having the conversations, man. They're having the conversations. You don't worry about these things until it starts getting into, first part of the season, right? Or the training camp. Like, what part of training camp? There's plenty of time to get things done. Plenty of time for Trey to say, hey, look, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and play on a one-year deal, whatever it may be. But I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all about this. No. So that's the answer.
What would be? I know because most of the time we hear holdouts, and I'm not saying he's going to hold out, right? But most of the time when we hear about holdouts and stuff, we hear about it's usually the diva guys, right? It's usually the receivers, it's usually the running backs, usually the guys who touch the ball. And we saw, and most recently we saw it with our own guy, Chris Jones. He came back week 2 of that a couple of years ago, missed week 1, and he even said he was pretty winded when he came back. Now, is that kind of the bigger thing you're worried about with the guard type? Because with a bigger type dude, are we worried about like the conditioning aspect of a guy like that is going to hold that miss mandatory minicamp if he does? Because he's missed OTA so far. If it does drag out, what would be the bigger things you're worried about with a guard missing on practice time and camp time, especially a guy who's been there for so long already?
Just technique wise with live bodies. That's about it. But for a lineman, he could get back in shape fairly quick. I mean, really can. Trey's is still working out. He's not like sitting on the couch, eating Funyuns. He's just not doing things like that. Okay. I'm sure he's in there taking care of himself, working himself out. He ain't back here, chugging down, 2-liter bottles of Diet Pepsi, Marcus. I cannot see Trey Smith doing that. And so we know he's a hard worker. Coach up here at EKU, Walt Wells, who coached him at Tennessee, talked about how hard he works. We've seen it. And so I have no issue as far as with Trey Smith in itself. So, he ain't going to be just a lazy dude just sitting on it. He's not going to be doing that. So, I don't really worry about as far as the conditioning wise. They ain't got far to go anyway. So.
Very true. Very true. Which is different with the defensive tackle, right? Where Chris Jones sometimes plays outside, sometimes plays inside. He's got to go chase the quarterback or whoever in the backfield and stuff. So, it's a little different as far as the conditioning wise than that.
Well, and also, too, Chris Jones got to go through 2 or 3 different guys.
Yeah.
It's not like he's just getting blocked by a single man. They're making sure they're double teaming Chris Jones. And I would have to say pass rush when somebody you're trying to get off and make a tackle, that's hard because somebody's pushing on you at the time that you're trying to disengage and corral a guy, really. So I think that's a harder thing for a defensive tackle to do. Shoot, man, you got to get through a wall a body, and that's a tough task. That's a tough obstacle to do. Offensive lineman, yes, you got yours is timing. It's really the guy beside you. I was saying this to one of my guys, Tyron Hobson. We were speaking, but offensive line, everybody has to be on the same page. That's what you miss. So forth. It's really that everybody has to be in concert with one another. Okay, I got to know what the guy on the inside and outside of me is doing. I got to know what the calls are. I got to know how far he's going to sit back. And so sometimes those times do change a little bit. And like I said, the live bodies is more so kind of the challenge. But other than that, man, I don't think as far as the conditioning part is going to be that big of a deal.
And you also threw me for a loop there with the Funyuns, JD. Everyone in the chat's loving your name drops there. Funyuns, either you're going to say Cheetos or either going to say something that you want something a little different tonight. I like that.
Yeah. Stanley Mooney said we tagged him this year, so he missed out on a bigger contract this year. So I'm sure he's making sure that contract is set in stone for the future. So here's the thing. I'm gonna say this. All right. We did tag him for this year, and it's a good tag. It's a good amount of change that we tagged him for. It really is. And he's taking advantage of the market for where it should be, as he should. I want Trey to get paid. I do. But you know what? You know what they evaluate? They look for guys that are replaceable. And sometimes teams don't mind taking chances replacing certain guys in certain positions. That's the reality. Is it easier to replace, let's just say, a guard than it is maybe a center or a tackle? I do believe it is, Marcus. For all the things I've been making as far as an argument with King Suma. Like, why is it easier for him to play guard than it is tackle? Well, because he has help on the inside and outside of him. Okay? Makes his job somewhat easier. Now, if you talk to any offensive line coach or any guy inside, you got to make sure he's conditioned and powerful enough for the brunt of the rush. Okay? Or the run lanes and getting up to the next level, double teams and all of that. That's what you're worried about as far as for guard. And do you think the Chiefs hasn't evaluated if they can do without maybe a Trey Smith? They let Joe Thuney go. They let Joe go. Joe was the best guard in the league. In my opinion, shoot, I don't think it was.
I would say, do you think? I mean, age obviously played a part in that, right?
Age played a part, no question about it. But he was still playing at a high level. Like, he was our best lineman. He was. And so when I say that, yeah, age is playing a part of it, but they let a Joe Thuney go. Could they have gotten a Joe Thuney who was high in age, longer in the tooth for less money? Absolutely. They probably could have. You know what I mean? Because he's up at Chicago. So let's just be honest here. And we can tell, look, I've said this before, and everybody needs to understand this, man, that sometimes when guys make a lot of money, sometimes they come expendable. All right. And I'm not saying this is what Trey Smith is, but the Chiefs might look at it and say, hey, look, man, we gave you a good tag of $23 million. There's things we want to do, right? Because they know there's other guys they want to sign for a long-term deal. There's other guys too, right? We understand this, but money's going up. Trey's just doing his job. His agent's doing his job too. Okay, let's put a little pressure on the Chiefs. We understand where the market is. Let's see what they're gonna do. See if there's any movement. So
let me ask you there. So you got Chiefs mandatory minicamp is June 17th or June 19th. So we have that's next week, the mandatory minicamp. There hasn't been any of the voluntary OTA stuff yet. But Trey Smith also has a July 15th deadline. The Chiefs have a July 15th deadline to get a long-term deal done with him. Otherwise, he signs the tag, and there you go. Yeah. So, do you think? Okay, let me ask you. Do you think he will be here? Will Chiefs see him next week, mandatory minicamp, or no? If you had to make a guess,
if he hasn't been here at OTAs, yeah, probably not.
Okay,
probably not. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he did show up. Maybe it's all just a nothing burger. Maybe Trey was like, "Hey man, look, I just don't feel like coming to OTAs right now." So, that's how that works. And I hear Stanley right now. If he was to get injured in practice before having the contract, my opinion is the smart move to wait. Yeah. So if he hasn't signed the tag and he hasn't signed anything on paper, then sure, you might as well wait, right? So, like I said, I mean, we're talking about what 23 smackaroos, the tag. That ain't chump change by no means.
On a 1 year, woo, that's nice.
Nice. Nice. Yes.
That is retirement worthy for many people in the workforce in the world.
Yeah, of course, but this is the market for
for sure. No.
Yeah. So no, it's a good payday. It's a good payday.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had to make not wager on it, but July 17th or July 15th is the deadline. Do you think the Chiefs get a deal done by July 15th, or do you think they let this thing go into next year? Everything Veach just said is that they're working on a long-term deal. But again, that's what GMs say. We don't know. We know that's what they say all the time. Whether they intend on bringing him back or not, that's what the GMs always say. But if you had to make a guess, do you think they get a deal done by the 15th or no?
I don't know. No, you know what? I think they might want him to play on the tag. They might want to work on a long-term deal, and they'll say, "Hey, listen, look, we'll go on play on the tag. After the season's over, we'll give you a long-term deal. Depends on what everything looks like, right? This is $23 million guaranteed. Okay, it's guaranteed money. So it's more than he's ever made. So
as a 6th-round pick, yeah, this is a big payday.
Big payday, man. Big payday. But this is why, like, when sometimes you take chances, there's other opportunities for other guys to come in and show what they can do. So,
yeah. So the Trey Smith saga will continue, and it'll be interesting to see. Will be interesting to watch, see how this thing unfolds. Hopefully it's not as much drama as we saw a couple years ago with the Chris Jones situation. The offensive linemen are different than even those edge rush type guys. Even those guys are kind of diva, right? In their own right. But because the way that whole thing played out with the watching the games from the stands, having the seats where he had them, that whole thing, But nonetheless, we got to sign Chris Jones, and he's here for the long haul. So just hope it's less dramatic than that.
Yeah, I think it will be. I think it'll be less dramatic. I think the difference was Chris Jones, I do believe, is a hard guy to replace. I think he's one of those guys, just such a rare talent that you can't move away from a Chris Jones. There's a lot of people that wanted to do it. There's a lot of people who say, man, don't pay him. Don't pay Chris Jones and let him sit up there and look at him and his agents, man, they got mad. Oh, they was hot at the agents and looking at him sitting over at I'm just like, yo, man, Chris Jones is one of the best ever to play his position. Let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. So I don't think this is in the same realm of things. Trent is a very good player. He's a very good player. All right. But then you have to look at it. Is somebody like Trent, is he replaceable? And teams are going to find that out. This is what this camp and all that is for, Marcus. This is a business in the NFL, man. Believe me, it's a business, bro. And people don't quite understand this point of it, but that's how easy they can move from a guy. For sure. They can. So it's not saying that Trey Smith is not worthy of the $23 million or the contract he's going to be given, but they got to take in every account of all the things. Like somebody said, George Kalafdis, McDuffie, you know what I mean? Shoot. See, Justin Away said lose him and pay Trent and George.
There's a lot of arguments. There's a lot of arguments for that.
They're going to be exploring all of these scenarios, believe me.
Yeah. Nasheri says maybe he's busy with his second annual Trey Smith football camp, June 21st, 2025 at the University School of Jackson.
Yeah. I'm sure he's doing
That's right after mandatory minicamp. Maybe he did it purposely to go. He's gonna go to mandatory minicamp. He's gonna go to that right afterwards. Maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So look, looking over here, said the barbershop said Chris Jones can dominate from any position on the D line. Absolutely true. And he's shown his versatility by doing that. The thing is, when there was plays that needed to be done, a sack that needed to happen, Chris Jones stepped up to make those plays. He is a force in himself, that he is constantly getting double teamed or triple teamed to make sure they are sitting there saying, we have got to watch this guy. We have to game plan for him. So, what's up, Andrea Chenault? What's going down? But hey, man, like what you said, these are the final job interviews. Yeah. And with his, his presence not being there, somebody else is getting those reps, and they're getting that evaluation too.
And there's a lot of guards on the team. I mean, that's one thing that stands out here. A lot of guys.
Yeah.
We're going to go to the offensive guard room, JD. So we talked about Kingsley, guard, left guard, Trey Smith. Obviously, those are the two top dogs. Hopefully, we'll see Trey Smith soon. Mike Caliendo, who filled in admirably last season. CJ Hansen, friend of the show. And then again, Issa Poole, Dalton Cooper, two of the new guys we brought in. And then Tremaine Anstrom, new guy we brought in. JD, what stands out from the guard room here? It seems like gosh, is that much more, maybe more tackles? I guess it's about the same, about 7 to 8.
Yeah. When you go through the three, Trey, Kingsley, Caliendo, solid guys, and the rest are young guys, young, inexperienced guys. So that's what I see. That's what I see from the guard room right now. But I do believe, Trey's here and Kingsley takes that left guard. I think we'll be fine. Shoot. Then Mike waiting in the wind. We're gonna be fine.
Yeah, I mean the only thing that I see from the guard room would be like, God forbid Trey Smith holds out. What do we do at that right guard spot? That's the only thing. And again, we found over the years, we've done it right. Alec Reddy ended up getting a good contract somewhere because he filled in, right? We've been able to find those guys. That's why I think last year the whole Chris Jones stuff came up. We're like, oh, we have to pay Trey Smith in the future. It's like, no, we're going to pay Chris Jones, and we'll deal with the guard spot when that comes up. But I guess looking at it like this, it's like, okay, well, if Trey Smith's not there, who's going to fill in that spot? But again, we found Alec Reddy. Alec Reddy was a killer for us in the Super Bowl against the Niners. When Joe Thuney went out, everyone thought that was going to be a death sentence for the Chiefs. But we were able to find those guys to plug and play. I would say Caliendo, he looked okay at times, but we have been proven to find those guards to fill in when we needed.
Yeah. So somebody's going to show up from this group. We're going to hear some good things out of somebody else besides, the King Suma and Mike Caliendo. Somebody else is going to step up in this group, man. And then we don't be shocked if we see somebody talking about one of the tackles might have came in to play this guard too. So
for sure, they like the versatile linemen.
Oh yeah, poor us. We have so much talent to choose from. So glad we're out of the desperation position filling times. No question, Witchy. I agree with you 1,000%. Across the board, I think we're fine. I think we're going to be okay, Marcus. That was our main question, was the left tackle. That has been answered.
Yeah, that was the biggest.
We got two. Yeah,
you got two of them. We didn't think we were going to get one of them.
Right.
Stanley Mooney. I know we lost our confidence in Wanye Morris at left tackle, but give him some reps at left guard. What do you make of Wanye's his skill set? How does that transfer over to guard, JD?
I think it does. I think he could play either side. That's a good thing about Wanye. Wanye is such an athletic guy that he could play either way or either side at tackle or guard. So Wanye is a guy that I'm rooting for to say, hey, man, you get yourself to where you need to get to, and you can earn a whole lot of money in this league. You earn a whole lot of money. So,
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.